When the Buddha was a child, it has been told that he lived in the lap of luxury, protected from the knowledge of any suffering. It was because of this, they say, that when he finally left the castle walls and traveled through the streets of India, encountering suffering, the suffering of old age, of sickness, and of death, that the Buddha's heart cracked open like a lotus seed and the flower of loving kindness bloomed forth, never to be dormant again. It was like this a little bit for the venerable monk Bhikkhu Panyakara, who led the Walk for Peace from Fort Worth, Texas to Washington, D.C., from last October to earlier this February, just last week. The venerable Panyakara and his procession of monks are just arriving home in Texas and flying to their various locations and monasteries right now. The venerable Panyakara was not always a monk. A professional IT engineer and a graduate from a Texas university, he formerly lived in the world just as many of us do, just as we do, a householder just like us. But eventually, the suffering of the world cracked the lotus seed of his heart as well. And he knew he needed to dedicate his life to peace. Now embracing the Theravada monastic path, the Buddhist monastic path, he has dedicated his life to spreading the seeds of peace to others with the message that peace cannot be demanded by force, but must be cultivated from within through gentle but persistent mindfulness and daily moment-to-moment awareness. You see, that first crack is needed in order for the lotus seed to be able to bloom. But if we pound it, it's not going to bloom. What needs to happen next is water and sun and nurturing, like the water of loving kindness. The recent Walk for Peace in the United States lasted for 108 days or 10 or 11, however many you'd like to count, since they spent some time in DC afterwards. It spanned 10 states from the Southeast, from Texas, all the way up to Virginia, through Tennessee and Georgia and North Carolina and others. Prior to this American pilgrimage, the Venerable Panyakara led a 112-day walk for peace in India 3 years ago. That was when he was inspired to someday lead one here as well. At the end of their journey, Panyakara and his group of monks reached our nation's capital and gave a peace talk in front of the Lincoln Memorial, where some of our members happened to be present, in front of those same steps where Martin Luther King Jr. preached for a better world. In the culmination of their journey, the following day was an international peace meditation, summoning people from all 50 states and numerous countries around the world who'd been following their journey. We don't even really know how many countries or how many people. It's impossible to track, but many, many people meditated together that day. I personally followed the monks walking for peace throughout Virginia here during their final week, visiting them several times, bowing to them as they walked by, showing up for their rest stops to hear them talk and pray. And in truth, I can testify that their entire walk was a prayer. They walked for all of us because the suffering of the world is so great. They continued to direct the attention away from themselves and towards the intention of their walk. This was a way to raise awareness, to raise the vibration of our society and our world, to open the hearts and quiet the minds of the people so that we might have more access to cracking open our own lotus seeds and having our own flowers bloom, watering our own flowers with mindfulness, so that the whole world might become a garden of beauty watered by the fountain of loving kindness. Along the way, the monks were accompanied by a very special creature. And I would encourage the kiddos, if you haven't yet, maybe you already have, to look up a picture of him later today. His name is 𝘍𝐿𝐴, and he's become known as the peace dog. 𝘍𝐿𝐴, the peace dog. 𝘍𝐿𝐴, the peace dog's story is a little bit like the Buddha's story, but someone in reverse. The difference is that this dog was born into suffering. One of thousands of dogs in India that are homeless and who live off the kind offerings of strangers, their bellies accepting anything similar to the monks' alms bowls. 𝘍𝐿𝐴 wasn't even given a name by the monks at first. Attracted by some inner force, he showed up on the trail alongside the monks walking for peace in India years ago, and day after day, he kept showing up and walking by their sides, first at an airport and then wherever they went. As the story is told, no one among the 19 monks ever imagined that a stray dog would become an inseparable part of a peace journey lasting over 100 days. He chose to follow on his own. And that was how 𝘍𝐿𝐴 chose to shape the journey of his own life. The monks decided to name him 𝘍𝐿𝐴. In Sanskrit, 𝘍𝐿𝐴 means light, a stray dog carrying a name that means enlightenment. He even has a little white heart on his head. You really need to see this dog. I'm sorry, don't have a picture for you today. 𝘍𝐿𝐴's story has become a symbol of hope, resilience, and compassion, and emblematic for the monks walking for peace. His image has been seen across the world. He's probably more beloved than they are. The similarity between 𝘍𝐿𝐴 and the Buddha is that once he became dedicated to the path of peace, he never turned back. He never strayed from it. Maybe stray dog wasn't the right name for him. He kept walking. He kept following that path without distraction, never turning away. And while other dogs would sometimes follow that first walk for peace, they would just show up for a few hours or a day or so, but they would leave. And 𝘍𝐿𝐴 stayed and stayed. In fact, he stayed so long that they adopted him and had to go through all the formal paperwork and get him to become a formal resident of the United States, where he now lives. And he accompanied them on his next journey. And just like some of those folks here, he ended up having to have an operation on his hip a few weeks ago, and so wasn't able to continue to the end of the walk, but was cared for all the same. I think many of us feel a little bit like 𝘍𝐿𝐴 when witnessing the monks walking for peace here in America. I think 𝘍𝐿𝐴's story strikes our hearts because though he's a dog, I think we actually can relate to him. I think on some level, we all wish that we could be so clear of vision and so lucky as to be taken in by a band of traveling venerable monks on a mission to spread peace across the land. And though people are not generally allowed, I love that Elsie was able to walk with the monks, but people are generally not allowed to walk with them or follow them for safety reasons, the urge is really strong in us to do so. One man from Colorado, after hearing about their peace journey, drove out to North Carolina and continued to show up day after day at each stop along the way to bow to the monks in supplication, always wearing the same clothing and continuing to show up at every stop. He eventually caught the attention of the monks who kept seeing him each time at each stop. And then they wrote a message of gratitude to him on Facebook. Whoever this person is who keeps showing up, thank you. Thank you. You're helping us. His love, his showing up, following his heart's yearning, made a difference. And it's a funny thing how dedication can show and grow our experience of love, how it can help us and help each other. The simple dedication by a group of people who are choosing not only this walk, not only this journey, but choosing to dedicate their entire lives to peace. Monks are people, right? The dedication of this group of people in hopes of easing the suffering of all beings. Well, actually, given this level of their dedication, it makes sense why the inner presence of these peaceful monks brings tears to the eyes of many just by witnessing them pass, just by being in their presence. It brings people to tears, and they don't know why, but that's why. I did not know the meaning of the words of the prayer that was whispered in another language when this blessing band was tied around my wrist by one of the monks, but it didn't matter. And I'm crying now and thinking about it, and I don't really know why, nor need to know why. Tears welled up in my eyes anyway, because the power of love was so great. And I wear it now as a reminder of that moment and of my vow, which is a vow we're all invited to make, which is to live with more peace, to live with more mindfulness. So simple, yet so powerful. Their journey presents an opportunity for all of us, and that was their intention, to present the opportunity to invite all of us to look into our own hearts, to search and see if we can discover, if we can make a tiny crack to our own lotus seeds, if we can let our own souls be cracked open by the suffering of the world, not be too hardened, and if love will come pouring out of us too. Our UU faith community has meditated over the last several years on our own deep core values, and we have decided that love is at the center. Love is at the center of all things, of all values that we set our hearts and minds upon. Love is what makes all of the other named Unitarian Universalist values worthy and animated and come alive. Because we see the world suffering and we want to respond. So the value of transformation needs to be motivated by love. The value of justice is motivated by love. The value of equity is animated by love and by compassion and by peace. That's why we have 6 values, but we have a 7th, and it's at the center of all the others. And it's been love that has called on the hearts of all of the great prophets, some say. And yet there's another truth, which is that sometimes we don't hear love's call. We don't heed love's message. Sometimes the challenges of life distract us from love's urgent message. The Venerable 𝘶𝐺𝑘𝐺 spoke about one of these challenges during many of his peace talks. You can probably look up almost any video of him on Facebook or YouTube, and he talks about cell phones a lot. Has anybody here heard some of that? He's got a great sense of humor. He calls them our what? Our lovers. He calls them our lovers. He's not wrong. I once had a friend who, when her phone would ring, she would say, "Hang on, my baby's crying." He says, it's okay to spend time with your lover, but sometimes you need to put your lover down in a drawer and walk away and do other things too. And he's not wrong. Multitasking is demanding, and it is taking away from our ability to be mindful in our culture. So I encourage you to listen to some of those talks by him. They're simple and accessible and even very funny. Watching the monks walk through ice for several weeks also made an impact on me. They walked through ice in a wholly unusual blizzard, a blizzard that started in Texas, where they came from, and traveled all the way, sweeping the entire country and southeast for the entire journey and route that they had planned to walk. Did you think about that? Sweeping the entire South and the route of their planned journey. It didn't seem to be happenstance to me with the months that they were struggling with ice in the South, while those in the North struggled with ice as well, just in a different form. And if this seems like a metaphorical stretch to you, that the monks may have been battling ice in some way related to our battle with ice, and you think that the monks were just walking to spread simple peace and happiness, you would be wrong. The monks walked because the world is suffering, and because of that very specific kind of suffering that has plagued and still plagues our country. They chose the route from Texas to Washington, D.C. with the knowledge of the painful history that has happened in the South. They named it as such. They walked for us because in truth there is only us. It's not you and me, it's only we. And they acknowledge the history of slavery and other forms of injustice and oppression in the South. So I appreciate them for doing so, for their mindfulness and their intention. So, when we wake up each day, I invite us to say aloud and write it down, as the Venerable Monk 𝘶𝐺𝑘𝐺 has asked us to do over and over again. Today will be my peaceful day. Let's say it again. Today will be my peaceful day. We don't only do it for us, we do it for all of those who need it, and our actions have the power to ripple kindness throughout the world. If I were to share the single biggest lesson that I learned from my weeks following the monks, it would be this, that kindness grows. That kindness grows. A simple redirection of our focus toward kindness in every moment will change the world. It changed mine in only a few days' time. If I had more time, I would share with you some of those stories, but you'll have to ask me during coffee hour. May we carry kindness with us wherever we go. When we arrive at this beloved Hearthstone building and cross the threshold, may we say each Sunday, today will be my peaceful day, so that we all spread the seeds of kindness to each other, so that the lotus flower of every heart might bloom. And that lotus flower is not just for us, because when we leave this place, we spread the seeds of kindness all around. Sorry, I'm so distracted by...
I'm sorry.
Are you okay?
We're running out of power on our laptop that
Okay.
Runs the whole thing.
The laptop's running out of power, folks. I'm multitasking.
Send some kindness to the laptop.
Multitasking. Let's send some kindness to the laptop. Every ripple of kindness matters. Every petal of the lotus is part of the flower's bloom.